Okay, we're recording now. Please go ahead.
All right, welcome everybody to the Wednesday, December 18th meeting of the Amherst 2024 Charter Review Committee. I will call us to order, starting with Meg.
Present, we're here.
Myself, present. Bernie.
Present.
Ken.
Here.
Raphael.
Here.
Erica.
Here.
Andy.
Here.
And it looks like Marcus and Dan are not here, so hopefully they'll join us. Just first, a little bit of reorganizing of the agenda that I wanted to allow us to do. I heard that Bernie had a committee process and reorganization. We can move that to right behind website structure at maybe number 4 or 5. So we can move that there, and I'll make that decision. And then if Dan doesn't show up, we will have to table our website structure discussion to the next meeting. So that is point number 2. And then the other thing is I'll be screen sharing our agenda and our documents that we're reviewing for the meeting. As Athena is watching a new puppy. So that, and then the only other thing I was wondering is, Bernie, you had a document for.
I do. I can try and.
Are you able to screen share that? If
I
not,
can screen share it. Yep.
I can.
I can screen share it.
Okay, you can. Awesome. All right, so we'll start with that. With the November 14th, 2024 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion? I'll make a motion to approve them. Second.
So do we second and then can we discuss them?
Yep. Second, Meg, go right ahead.
Second.
Open for discussion. Go ahead, Meg.
So, hats off to Ken for 10-page minutes.
This is the 14th.
This is the November 14th.
Oh, excuse me.
No problem. So November 14th, we have a motion. Second, should I start the voting? Meg?
Yes.
Myself, I'm an aye. Bernie?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Raphael?
Yes.
Erica?
Yes.
Andy?
I'll abstain because I wasn't here.
Okay, no problem. Thank you so much. That is 6 of us in favor, 1 abstention. Andy was not here. December 12th, 2024. Meg, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second, Meg, go ahead. Speak to what you want to say.
I appreciate the extraordinary detail of Ken's minutes. Amazing. It's really, I think we should expect that our minutes are going to be different from each other. And yours, Ken, were sort of almost a transcript. And there were a couple of places where I would have said, well, I would have used this word instead of that, but I don't think we really want to go. I thought they were accurate generally. There were a couple of, words here and there, but
Sure.
Do people agree that the spirit of them?
I was personally quite impressed by the length and detail of the minutes. Thank you, Ken.
It was. It's a heroic effort, but
Yeah.
I think
Amazing.
The thing with minutes, and someone can jump in and correct me, is that you sort of characterize or summarize the discussion.
Yeah.
Where you need to be accurate is in the motion, and discussion on the motion should be more detailed. But it's who's made the motion, who's seconded it, if there's any substantive discussion of the motion, and then the vote, that are the key pieces to the minutes.
Yeah.
So you can get by with paragraphs, short paragraphs for a lot of this, especially if we operate on consensus. A lot of it'll be that consensus was reached on such and such.
Yep. Yeah.
I was like, I reviewed the other minutes and I looked at them and I just said, how did they do that? How did they make that? I'm a linear guy, not an abstract guy. So that's why the minutes look like that.
No
Well, thank
problem. Yeah, I appreciate
They're incredibly detailed, and it was
Yeah.
it's a lot of work. And
Yeah.
I'm
Huge.
acknowledging that it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll vote on this.
Thank you, Ken.
Yeah, thank you, Ken.
I have one note that it says the meeting started late at 8:10, but I think it was actually 6:40.
Yeah, 6:40. Yep. So I guess I'll accept that as an amendment. Let's amend the minutes to have it at 6:40 instead of 6:10.
And I guess I had one other thing looking
Yep, go
at,
ahead.
if you don't mind.
Yep.
There was something about, I'm trying to find where I mentioned it. I mentioned that the public forums were an issue, but it wasn't that the public didn't have enough time to talk. It was actually more about the, just that it was awkward, the mathematical nature of it. So I don't think it necessarily needs to be changed. I just want to make sure that we know that.
Okay.
It was more that people are sitting around waiting so that they could actually have equal time for each side, and it seemed like that could be fixed, but
Okay.
minor.
Great. With that one amendment that I accept, Meg, do you accept that?
Yes.
Great. Let's move to vote on the minutes. I'm an aye. Meg?
Yes, I.
Bernie?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Raphael?
Yes.
Erica?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Great, that's unanimously approved. And Erica, according to our schedule, you're on meeting minutes for tonight. Is that okay?
Sure.
Great, thank you. Athena, go ahead.
Just a quick note, I haven't asked for permission, so I just want to make it clear during the meeting that the minutes need to include a record of the documents presented at the meeting. So I'm going to be adding the list of documents from the packet to each set of meeting minutes. And I'll do things like correct the spelling of my name and things like that before I post. So I'll just do those little administrative changes before I post. I wanted to make the committee aware because you've adopted them as written.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Athena. And we always appreciate you going in there and sort of making sure it's all like crisp and decent for the public consumption. All right. So I will get us started. Public comment. Does any member of the public, if any member of the public would like to give public comment, please raise your hand using the raise hand function on Zoom, or press *9 if you're on a cell phone or telephone to give public comment, and I will give you 3 minutes to speak to the committee. You see any hands, Athena?
No.
Okay, great. Then we will move forward. Agenda item number 4. I do not see Dan here to discuss this, and I do not feel it's appropriate to discuss something that he made as a motion and wanted to bring up without him. So I'm going to make the decision as chair to table this to the next meeting. If anybody has questions on that, let me know.
Is the website structure issue?
Yeah. Yes, correct. Okay. Next thing that I have agreed for Bernie to discuss, so I'll pass it over to you, is to the committee process and organization, which is moving agenda point number 10 to number 5. And then after that's done, we'll move on to agenda point number 6. If you have a document, you can screen share it. And I'll just kindly remind people to use the raise hand function on Zoom. That's just especially important when you're screen sharing, because I can't see your physical hand and don't want to be distracted by interruptions.
Okay, let me just background.
Go ahead.
I spent some time looking at some of the other charter reviews, looking at the National League of Cities booklet on charter reviews, looking at some of the suggestions that were made in previous meetings, and tried to put this together. I put this together quickly, so it's no pride in authorship here. There's 2 pieces. First piece is that we agree to engage the Collins Center when funding is available.
I cannot really see this very well, Bernie. It might just be my computer. Do other people have trouble seeing this?
Can you expand it? Big it, enlarge it?
Let me see if I can do that.
Down
I
on the
can do it if
bottom
I look
right.
really close.
Okay,
Bottom
let
right of the
me
screen.
see if I can go to layout here.
At the bottom right, there's a slider for scaling it up.
The
Yeah.
bottom right. Okay, yeah, there is. Very good.
We
Thank
see your
you.
little arrow. Good.
Yeah, little arrow. It's telling
More.
me that.
That's
Oop,
There
oh,
we go.
that's perfect.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right, good. Because
Thanks,
I
Eric.
have,
Thanks, Erica.
I'm cheating. I have a 27-inch monitor here with the document up
Oh,
on it.
Got it.
man. We're looking
And
at
then
a
I've
little
got
tiny
my
desk,
then I've got my little 13-inch laptop, which I need special
tiny
glasses
little
for.
laptop here.
Okay,
So
great.
the
Go ahead.
first piece would be to agree to engage the Collins Center as our consultant when funding is available. I think Julian, you and I chatted, and you had a conversation with them. That's where the numbers came from. So we know that what the Collins Center is able to offer is within our costs. They worked on our charter. They've worked on charters across the state. So they've got lots of experience in doing this stuff. And the other piece is because they're technically a state agency, we don't have to go out to bid. We can just
Great.
agree on a course of work and shake hands. So if we can come to the agreement that we'll default to the Collins Center, assuming that they're available. Anything can go wrong, but assuming they're available, that we'll just default and maybe tell the town manager this as well, that we really want to work with the Collins Center, and so we can forget about the bid process and we can accelerate bringing on a consultant. That would be my
Great.
first suggestion.
I agree. Thank you.
I agree too. I
Okay.
suggest that we have a
Excuse me.
chance, sorry.
Erica raised her hand first.
Okay,
Please.
sorry.
Go ahead, Erica.
Just to clarify, for my own understanding and for the minutes, is this a proposal from you, Bernie, about the consulting process? I missed the part where you introduced this document, and also just for the sake of the minutes, is this in our packet? I don't think I saw it.
No, it's not in the packet.
Okay.
I didn't have it ready in time to share.
That's fine. I just want to understand like the context of what it is we're looking at.
So my apologies for not getting it out sooner, but so this is the suggestion I'm making, that the committee agree that the Collins Center would be an acceptable consultant based on their experience in general, their experience with the town, costing, the discussion that Julian had with them about costs and illicit services, so that we could expedite bringing on a consultant. And really what we'd end up doing with the Collins Center is that I would think the chair and our staff liaison would sit down with them and agree on a scope of services, or our chair and the staff liaison can come up with a scope of services in advance, and then share that scope back to the committee at our next meeting. So when funding becomes available, we can move forward quickly to engage the Collins Center. That would be, that's my suggestion. I could turn that into a motion if you'd like.
I think it would be great if you could have that turned into a motion, or we could make a motion at the end just to approve this document. That might be a little more efficient, but I completely agree that this is an excellent way to go forward. And we'll just ask Athena that I did send an email about getting in touch with you and Melissa about this. But so if you have a chance to see that, that's great. This is exactly, I think this is excellent, Bernie. So I appreciate this.
Oh, thanks. And I think between your conversations and Athena's expertise, you guys can come up with a pretty good scope of services that would work, and it can come back to the committee. I don't know that we'd have a whole lot of disagreement with it, but it should come back to the committee, and then we can move forward.
That's great. Meg?
My question was answered.
Great. Okay. Andy?
I think this is great. I think, I'd just like to, I think it would be appropriate for the scope of services to be, discussed and approved by the committee before it goes to Collins Center.
Yeah, that's what I'm suggesting, yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
think that's appropriate.
That in the
Um,
next, prior to the January 16th meeting, that the scope of services gets worked out. And it can come back to us on the 16th, and then, because we're not gonna know in 2 weeks that we've got funding, I'm guessing.
No, we are not. We are, I think the scope of services coming back to the committee would be excellent, and I'm happy to work with Athena and Melissa to do that by the 16th. I have been in communication with our town manager, who said that it's likely we will get, it's possible that we will get a budget request in front of the council in late January or early February.
Wow.
And then that would have to vote to be approved. And if that's put forward by the manager and approved, we'd then get that funding. So having something in place for specified services by the 16th would hopefully expedite that process a little. But as expected, it's looking, early to mid-February timeframe before we get the consultant in here.
Okay, yeah, thank you. The second piece is that we begin having interviews and discussions with stakeholders. And I've got a list of I've got 4 groupings. And again, this isn't carved in stone. The first group is municipal. This is sort of organized in order of where they may be impacted by and work with the charter. So the obvious group is municipal officials elected and appointed. That would be the councilors, town manager, the library trustees, the Amherst School Committee members. Those are all in the charter. All those people are in the charter. And this could also be expanded to include former councilors. The second group is administrative staff. I'm thinking not all, but many department heads, maybe some others. The third is established interest groups. I mean, we've already heard from the league. There are other established interest groups in town. And then the fourth is the general public, which is our largest audience. So what I'd suggest is that we do interviews. We have individual members of the committee have time-limited, open-ended conversations, interviews, if you will, with members of the first group, municipal officials, and the second group, which is administrative staff. That I would be willing to work with Athena and maybe somebody else to compile a list of names and contact information for the folks in Group A, and then bring that back to the meeting for everyone to look at, and then basically assign individual members of the committee to have a conversation with perhaps a counselor in your district, or maybe a counselor in another district, a member of the school committee. The idea would be to have an open-ended discussion where you sort of, you don't start out with a laundry list of challenges and issues. Mary Jo Haneke's wonderful paper is a case in point of where we will end up, but that's not where we need to start. So we could just have a general conversation with people about their feeling about what's working, what's not working. Are there operational issues? How's their checks and balances feel? How does it promoting policy? Is it easy to promote a policy change? To have a general discussion like that. Let them tell us. Would be passive in this. Let them tell us what their impressions are of the charter. Record that, and then when we're finished with that group, we all come back together with our individual interviews and data, and see where the trends are, see what people are thinking. And I'm proposing to do this on a one-on-one basis because I'd like to avoid theater.
Mm-hmm.
Risk of insulting everybody. You get 13 politicians in a room. No matter how wonderful you think they are, there's going to be some theater. And,
right.
And we could, just by having this, you know, via Zoom, via phone, face to face, over coffee, you can get past a lot of that and just get some genuine feelings from people about how what their impressions have been since the charter's been in place. And this would also, we could also do this with the former councils. The administrative staff, we'd need to come up with a targeted list of who those folks are, and recognizing that they all work for the town manager. Go to the town manager and say, we would like to talk to these people on company time. And get his, and I'm sure Paul will buy in on that, but you know, we need to respect his role as
Authority.
the manager. Yes. So that's the two groups that we would identify people to do the interviews with them by the 16th, so that we can then start. This would also be data that, regardless of when the Collins Center comes on, this will be useful stuff. We'll have already had people's impressions. We'll be able to compile it. We can share it with our consultant and get some idea of where folks are at. It's not intended to be the only time that they talk. It's intended to be a start. We can also invite them to, if they'd like to do what Mandy did and send us written comments, that those would be welcome. So those are the first two. The third group is established interest groups, and this might be volunteer committees as well.
So could I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah.
So both of those would be before the 16th of January, which
no.
I like.
No, we'd get that information together and get people assigned and come back to the committee and say, this is what we'd like to do by the 16th.
Oh,
So
okay,
this
not
comes back to the
completely.
committee. This comes back to the committee to be talked about and approved before we move forward.
So we don't do the interviews before the 16th.
No, you would be doing
Okay,
them
got it.
afterwards.
Got it.
Erica?
I had a question about, you said the idea would be to interview individual members to avoid the kind of the mutual influence of being interviewed as a cohort.
Mhm.
But do you imagine, is what you're describing a one-on-one interview with a member of the committee, or is it a kind of a scheduled one counselor at a time, for instance, before?
No, one-on-ones. There are 9 of us. There's probably going to be, I honestly haven't totaled them up, but most of us would end up talking to 2 people. Some of us. would end
It's
up
about
talking to 3
it's about 20 officials.
Okay, so that's roughly two half-hour interviews.
Or 3.
3 for somebody like me who really likes to talk, you know.
Great. Andy? Go ahead.
So yeah, I guess I was curious about how these number 1 and number 2 interacted, but I think you're clarifying that the idea is that these are introductory reaching out to get general input on what's working, what's not working, or what their impressions are to start, to give us sort of something to then compile to say these are some initial areas that people who've been in the system are saying.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then at the same time, we're working to hire the consultant. And so then when we get the consultant, we can get down to more nitty gritty, you know, follow-up types of information gathering, and especially with the public.
Yeah, I thought I stole this idea from you when you suggested this should be an iterative process, you know, and sort of working inductively.
Well, I like it. I think I think starting generally and being able to get going is good.
Yeah.
But I just wasn't sure how the interaction of the interviews, whether we needed input from the consultant on the content of the interviews. But I think if they're general enough and it's basically introductory to say, you know, hey, what's working, what's not working, what would you tell us as we're starting this process? And then we bring that together, we talk about it, and then some themes emerge, and then we can go deeper.
Right, and also to encourage them to think more deeply about their role in working with the charter, and encourage them to provide us with additional input later, or further on in the process. But yeah, the idea is to just get a baseline of where people are at, and move on that. The established interest groups, we got some idea back in the surveys that Erica compiled of whom we might fall into this interest group. I'd suggest not having the interest groups identified by the 16th, but wait to come up with it to the end of the month because it's a little fuzzier. And with the interest groups, we could either invite them to do what the league did, which is submit something in writing, or have one of us sit down with the chair of the group or at a meeting of the group, again, for time limited discussion, open-ended discussion on their impressions of the charter and what's working, what's not. And then finally, there's general public comments, and we've got some other agenda items that will relate to this. I'm suggesting that one or two committee members agree to work on a public contact plan in general and have something that we can come back to the committee with at the end of January. I'm also hesitating on that a little bit because we will be bringing in a consultant and they may have better ways of doing that. So that's my sort of plan, sort of my concept of a plan.
You have concepts of a plan, Bernie.
Yes.
Andy, and then Meg.
Can you just scroll down a little bit, Ernie, so we can see the Bernie, so we can see the bottom of the the interest groups and the.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think it sounds good. I'm excited to get a consultant who has worked with some of these other charter review committees that can help us, especially with how do you write a survey to get public input. And I like the fact that we could get going and start talking to people who are actually in the system now. I'm wondering if we want to also have, I don't know if people are on committees, volunteer committees, whether it's conservation or planning board or any of the number of committees that we have, would they fall into I don't know if they're in interest groups or if they're in general public, or if we want to actually have a category for people who have some in-depth. I don't know how much that interacts with the charter, but I think they might have some talk too.
Meg, go ahead, and then I have something I'd like to say.
Okay, Bernie, this is great. I really like it, everything about it. I think when we talk to the first and the second groups, we should say, let them know this isn't your final comment. There'll be other chances. This is getting the conversation going. So it doesn't feel like, gee, I'm not ready. So that it's to lower
Right.
the temperature of the conversation so that just what you said, they're relaxed and one-on-one and not theater. I think avoiding theater is really, I love the way you said that. The idea of the sequence, there's one problem that I have, which is people are already coming up to me and saying, when can I comment? I have things I want to say. I think it would be good if somehow, not necessarily right now, but we could move some forum, some mechanism higher up for hearing some kind of public comment or getting it or giving people a sense of that either we want to hear it now or when we're going to hear it, so that it doesn't seem like we're pushing the public aside while we talk to officials and administrative people.
Right. Now, I think that the very last sentence in here is the public is always welcome to communicate with the committee through all available means. So,
maybe we should tell them that more, say that somehow.
Yeah, well, this wasn't intended for this is where your letter comes in.
Okay.
Seriously, I think
Our
this is where
letter,
your
our
comes in.
letter.
Yeah, our letter that you read
Man.
so nicely. That you're welcome to get a hold of us, and this is how you do it. Here's the email address. Here's the link. Here's the website where you can go dish comment.
Perfect. Thank you.
I don't know if we have or can arrange for a phone extension where people can leave messages.
Oh,
Oh, yeah,
I
we should
didn't-
do that. I know school
Uh,
committee does that.
I think that would be, that would be another thing that, if you want to just, you get an idea, you want to just call and leave a message. This is it. One of the things we need to do as a committee is assign people to track this stuff down,
Mhm.
to make sure that the emails get read and that the responses on the website get noted, and that if we do have a phone number, that gets noted, and that people get back, you get back to people, even if it's thank you for your note, so that people know that it's not going
Great.
into a black hole somewhere and being absorbed into the, by some supernova or something.
I just want to note that Mark joined us.
Oh, Marcus?
Marcus,
Marcus, can you hear us and be heard?
Yes, I can. Yeah, sorry,
Excellent.
I'm at my son's ice hockey practice.
No problem at all. We are basically in the middle of discussing an item Bernie proposed about the committee timeline and working with that. And we've approved the minutes and had no general public comment. So
All right, awesome. Thank you for that. Yeah, no, I think this is an amazing plan. So
No problem.
Running.
great. Thank you, Andy. And I have a comment of myself, and I'm going to try to, I may end up making a motion so that we can move this along.
Yeah, I was just wondering if, along the lines of Meg's concern, whether we want to just schedule an initial public forum, and that might be theater, but it might be also a useful thing to have for people to come and, to say we will schedule one of our meetings, and the agenda would be for members of the public who want to come, just say, give us an initial sense of what they're concerned about. Or I don't know if we want to hold off on that, but I think, again, getting initial feelings from, municipal officials, staff, interest groups, it might be good to have something on the agenda to say we're going to have a public forum to invite the public for initial thoughts that will then be, mixed in with the ones we've heard, so that then we can go deeper later. I don't know.
Raphael, and then I'll make myself last.
I appreciated what Andy shared. I think along the same lines, our initial or push now could be just public awareness. Charter exists, our work. That would be great. In terms of what's proposed here, there's a lot. Thanks for doing this. I have a question about, could you go to the top for me in terms of the consultant we want to engage with, the Collins Center? Have they worked on charter review? I think Andy mentioned it, like looking for folks who have worked on processes like these. Have they? And before that question is answered, for me, it's kind of tricky in terms of engaging in a discussion about or vote about who we will have as our consultant without me like getting more information. It's quick to me. So I just want to raise that.
Okay, I don't know, Andy, if you want to.
Julia, can I just mention that how we've worked with them before?
Right ahead. Yeah.
So the Collins Center, they were the consultants that worked with us on the original charter and the charter commission.
Okay.
And in looking at the Watertown Charter Review Committee, it was pretty apparent to me that they had worked with them because it looked like some of the ideas that we had come up with, they had then cross-fertilized, and then in their review, they adopted some of them. So I'm sure Julian could probably say more from having talked to them, but my understanding is that they have extensive experience working both with charter development and charter review. And they happen to be a state agency, so we can engage them. So they're very familiar with Massachusetts. They're familiar with Amherst and our charter, and they've worked with other charter review committees. So I found them very easy to work with, informed, and they supported us, but they didn't try to drive the bus. So I'd be comfortable, bringing them on. I think that would be the most efficient way, but also I think they're very skilled and expert. So that's my take.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Andy's very on point here. I looked at their website and they have worked with definitely a majority of the cities and towns in Massachusetts in some capacity or another. On their website, and he told me that they had done 5 or 6 charter reviews specifically in the reviews. So that is another thing to consider, that they do have a good amount of experience here.
Yeah, they're,
Well, mate,
so
um,
Raphael knows they're part
hold
of
on one sec.
human. they're-
Raise-
they're- Oh, sorry.
Yep. Raise your hand, Meg, then go ahead.
If I was on the Charter Commission and agree with Andy and very much with Andy and Julian. If people are unsure, we could ask to meet the person we'd be working with ahead of time, but I'm not sure that's necessary. It would just take more time.
Bernie?
Yeah, I just for Raphael's, it's the Edward J. Collins Jr. Center for Public Management at UMass Boston, and I can send you a link to their website. I've worked with them in a number of things, and certainly know their the range of activities that they've been involved in, and I think they're quite expert. And as Andy said, they'll offer advice, but they won't push.
Okay.
They're not going to come in and tell you must do this. They're going to give
All
you
right.
options.
Thanks for all the sharing.
No,
Thanks.
no problem. Thank you, Bernie. I had 2 things. I think point number 1 about the Collins Center is excellent. I really appreciate you doing that. Point 2 is I think it's great to have outreach with municipal officials. I would just add, I think there's another interest group that we need to pay attention to here, sort of in between established interest groups and the general public, which I would describe as town boards and committees and general town staff. And what I mean by that is everything from the planning committee to the CSWG, ECAC, the public shade tree committee. We have all these different committees in towns that we can hear from. So I think that should be an additional point. And that it's great that we should talk to administrative staff. I also think we should more generally, not one-on-one, but maybe through a Google form or a public outreach time, engage the more regular workers of town, whether that be the school teachers, the firefighters, the police officers, the DPW staff, etc., to try to get an idea of what their thoughts are. They don't engage with the charter as much as the administrative staff, but it still limits them in some capacity. So it would be worth speaking with them as well. And then my other point is I think that this is lacking with general public comments. I think that we have other points on the agenda, which are point 6 and agenda point 6, Google form for public input and scheduling the first outreach time and goals of the session. So I think that this is great document, and I would certainly vote to approve it. I just think it's important that in addition to that, we look to release a public Google form as a way people can engage and schedule our first community outreach session. So there's more quantifiable data from the public rather than just people who are specifically really interested in us coming to share their concern or their pet peeve or what they've been working on, to really get out in the public and discuss with members of the public separately. So I don't know if I don't think it's necessarily something that needs to be added to this document. I just think it's something that's important for us to sort of do an and both with.
Okay. I would be willing, if everyone agrees, and I don't know if anybody else would like to join me in this on an informal basis, to beginning to pull together the list of people who are potential interviews in groups A and B, and be prepared to report those back on the 16th. So we could get that piece started.
Great, thank you.
If someone else wants to then move along with the interest groups, or we could just say interest groups, and we can include certainly include volunteer committees in that piece. Then that would be welcome if someone wants to begin working on that. And then the general public comments is, Julian, as you alluded to, we have other stuff going on as well. So we're gonna make some movement in that area. Whether one person picks it up or two people pick it up is a subject area that they're going to work on or not.
Great.
Great. Erica and then Andy.
I think I wanted to make two comments. One is for the established interest groups. I don't know if this was included in how you were conceptualizing that, Bernie, but I think there's another, maybe it's another category of sort of civic groups, kind of like somebody mentioned the League of Women Voters earlier that has already submitted a formal comment to the committee. But that's a group that's not in government and it's not the general public, but also I'm interested in it as like for their convening power, that we might be able to reach public through existing civic groups that aren't necessarily government related, but are just kind of groups that already exist in the town. So I just wanted to mention that as one piece. The other thing I wanted to say is that this is a really interesting plan with dates attached, which I think is great. And also the public outreach piece seems to me complex and nuanced enough to deserve and require maybe its own kind of parallel plan. I think this is what Julian was sort of alluding
Yeah.
to. And I think it rises to like, let's put dates on a calendar that lead us to kind of create a timeline for, and we have the sketches of that we're going to talk about tonight. But I just wanted to say, if we are going to vote on this, and I'm not sure that we need to, but if we're going to vote on this as a guideline or a plan, then maybe we break off the public outreach piece as almost a parallel track.
That thought had crossed my mind as well, that given the expansiveness of the public outreach piece and the importance of it, it may well, be something that runs on its own. And in terms of interest groups, I was thinking about not simply the league, but the Chamber of Commerce, the BID, the Realtors Association. There's a whole number of individual groups in town that may or may not have an interest in this that we should at least approach. So, like I said, I'm willing to, and if folks will allow, I'm willing to come back in 2 weeks or on the 16th with the groups for A and B and so it goes started on interviewing. And I don't know that you need to vote on it. I'm
Thank you.
flattered with all the positive remarks. I think Eric is right that we may want to just take public comment piece and have it run a parallel track. In terms of engaging the Collins Center, we don't have to vote on that tonight, but I would want Julian, I would ask Julian if you would get together with the staff liaison and whomever else you need to begin to put together a list of services so that when the money becomes available, we'll have a basis, the committee will have an agreed upon basis for contracting with Collins.
I agree. Thank you so much. I think that would be great. I'll definitely work on that. And the other thing you mentioned you can work on, I think that's cool too. Andy, Meg, I'd rather us make a motion than just do nothing. So I guess I'll make the motion to add. I'll make the motion to amend next to interest groups to add including town committees, staff people, and established interest groups. So basically have established interest groups, and we could just put like a dash including these things, and then say general public comments and put next to it see parallel process. And with those two amendments, I would make the motion to approve this with those amendments, both parts of the document. Someone willing to second?
I'd
Second.
second that.
Second, Meg, great. Andy, do you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I think we should title this, how we want to begin. It's not the end all and be all plan, but I think it's a beginning.
Getting going, yeah.
We don't
Great.
need to, maybe we just in our minds have this titled that way, but I think it's an initial starting point. I think it's a good one. I did notice that when I was looking at one of the other charter review committees, they had a communication subcommittee, and that might be a public outreach subcommittee. So we might want to consider establishing that. And I would think that the consultant would be very helpful with us in guiding that subcommittee on how to, as somebody mentioned, it's a nuanced and expansive process to get input from the public, and probably from the interest groups as well to a certain extent. So maybe if we created at some point, if we wanted to create a communications or public outreach subcommittee, have them work with the consultant on the specifics of how that would work. And then we could, that could be sort of, the way we implement C&D. That just might be, I think, useful. And then in terms of the request for services or the scope of services from the consultant, I think if anybody else on the committee has thoughts about that, I assume that you would be open to accepting input from any of us to say, hey, here are the things I'd like them to ask or something, and you could take that into consideration.
Great. Meg?
I strongly support what Erica said about a separate track for the general public. And I think it is different from established interest groups. Frequently people have come up to me, just, when are you going to, I have things I want to say, when do you want to hear it? That maybe when not now, but when we talk about the draft outreach letter, we might talk about what that separate track might look like.
I agree. I think members of the public are completely different and deserve its parallel process. So, Erica, were you able to get that motion on the floor to approve both sections of this with the amendments to general public comments, see parallel processes, and established interest groups, including committees and town staff?
Was that a question for Athena?
Yeah, Athena or Erica. I think it's just the motion gets documented in the minutes.
I have your motion, and
Great.
I think it was Meg seconded.
Excellent. Perfect. Thank you. So I'm going to move us to vote on that. Meg?
Yes.
Myself, I'm an aye. Bernie?
Yes.
Erica?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Raphael?
Yes.
Marcus?
Yes.
Excellent. That's approved unanimously. Thank you very much. And thank you, Bernie, for working on this. This is great.
I will.
Bernie, would you send the document to me so I can add it to the packet, please?
Yeah, I will do that as soon as we're finished. I'll shoot it off to everyone.
Excellent.
Thank you. And that was
And I made the changes that were suggested.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You've amended the plan, but you haven't adopted it. Is that something you're?
No, we just voted to.
We just voted to
We
amend
voted
and
it.
adopt.
And
Oh,
what I
perfect.
did is
Okay, thank you.
I just modified the document to recognize the vote that was taken, that public comments will be on a parallel basis, that established interest groups will include volunteer committees and town staff. Administrative staff and municipal officials, elected appointed groups have stayed the same.
Thank you for clarifying that point.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Okay. Vote to amend and adopt committee timeline, which is point number 5, is basically what we just did. And I think this document is a lot better than what I put together. So I'm going to move on to issue number 6, which is a Google form that I created and am proposing to put out in the public sphere, whether that probably would be through our committee website, through little flyers and QR codes posted downtown and in obvious spaces and community gathering spaces, maybe town hall, etc. And shared on social media. So, and in email lists and that sort of thing, community email lists. So that's the idea for where this would go. And it's pretty rough. And I'll be perfectly honest, I created it trying to sum up as best I could into questions what the committee talked about at our last meeting with sort of interest areas and areas of interest that we had in the charter and forming those into questions. I think that I don't see we could vote to adopt it tonight. We could wait and vote to adopt it a different night and just look through it. It's a very rough draft, and I think that folks should feel free to add edits to it and just tell me if there's something you really want to change. And as long as I don't strongly disagree with it, I'll make that change. Meg and then Raphael.
I wonder if we should talk about this either after the discussion about the letter and or in context of the parallel strategy for reaching out to the public. So it doesn't just, you said it was, you wrote it quickly, whether we want this to be part of a larger strategy.
Sure. Raphael, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a great start, but I think it would be great for us to do a little more work on it. Like there are things that we should consider, like what's the overarching goal of this? And there's some demographic info that you're asking for. I think we could expand on that.
Okay, great.
Things connected to like education, perhaps marital status, employment. So all those could be in play. And I think there's some issues around like language and inclusiveness that we should think about too.
Okay.
But I'd rather not do that here.
Okay.
Perhaps I could assist you with it offline.
Could we set up a time to meet and go over some of these things? I think that'd be great, and I can bring it back to the committee.
We could.
Great. Yeah, I'd love to do that. Athena and then Andy.
I suggest you solicit input from all members and then include that in an updated form that you can share at the next meeting, so you can have that input from everybody offline individually, and then as long as you don't share it outside the meeting before the next meeting, then we're good.
Okay. Who raised their hand? Erica and then Ken.
I just wanted to raise the issue. It's a question. Is this the initial piece of work of that public outreach sort of piece of the proposal that we just broke off? Is this the first piece of work? And are we considering or reconsidering the idea of a subcommittee to work on that, because it is a substantial piece of work, and bringing back proposals for the larger committee, because there's a lot to do, there's a lot to think about. It's hard to do this kind of work individually, but we don't want to be restricted by all the other things that there is to do in between meetings. So I'm just putting it out there. Do we want to revisit the idea of a subcommittee that would meet in public? It's all a can of worms. I understand it's complicated, but I'm just putting it out there. Reviewing this document, getting it to a place where, even though it's a great start, getting it to a place where we feel comfortable releasing it into the wild is a piece of work that we need to take on, and not lightly.
Ken?
I was going to say something somewhat related to what Erica just said, and that was, once this is sent out, it needs to really just live out there and not be changed, and we got to be really happy with it, because and so that we don't come back and say, well, we have this other survey now, in 6 months or whatever it is. It's going to confuse people. They're going to wonder if their first answers didn't count or something. So, and in the idea of that, or in the spirit of that, living for a long time, it should be as simple as possible. There are some very specific questions here, some very general questions, some sort of, binary kind of yes or no questions. And I would like to see, I'd like to go back to the buckets the buckets conversation of the legislative sort of, the rules and procedures and the legislative part, when we talked about the charter, to try to think in terms of those buckets with these questions and maybe keep them as general and as open-ended as possible. Because it's really them, the public, that need to say what's on their mind and not be led down any particular parts, but keep the structure of the survey within what the charter covers as much as we can. I know that's also a can of worms. It's not all about what the charter covers. It's other things as well, which we'll accept.
Great. Andy, go ahead.
Yeah, I piggybacking, I think on Erica's comment and agreeing with Ken that, we're talking about hiring a consultant, and I think this is an area that they could really help us with. And so, I like the idea of having a subcommittee for public outreach and a group of people who could actually meet together legally and brainstorm together and take all of the ideas that we put together and talk to the consultants and come up with a robust survey that we're proud of and that we can live with for the duration. So, and again, maybe the first blush is general, but they could help us with sequencing that as well, that there be a general survey and then a more specific forum or something.
Yeah, do we want, I think what I'm hearing is a pretty general consensus among the committee that is great, which is to develop a subcommittee on outreach that would take this form. So I'd send this form to them, and with them, whoever's on that, we would work to edit it and bring it back to the committee, and then the Collins Center might help us with some of the pieces of the form. Raphael?
No, you shared what I just wanted to circle back to what Andy said about waiting for consultant.
Okay.
But you shared it. Thanks.
Erica?
Yeah, I think that the subcommittee could come around to work on this survey, but I think that if the imaginary subcommittee were created, I think its first piece of work would be to create a full-fledged plan, of which the survey is one part, and that would be an entity that could do the nitty-gritty detail work and bring things back for larger approvals to this group.
Meg?
Erica said probably
Okay.
better than I would have
Okay.
what I was going to say.
So I guess, seeing that, I'm debating whether to make a motion to establish a subcommittee or to have an agreement and bring up establishing a subcommittee in another meeting. I think it's appropriate. Yeah, Erica, go ahead.
Yeah, I just I think it's great to make a motion. I just wondered if there's anything that we need to, I would feel like I need to know, be reminded of the sort of consequences of setting up a subcommittee if we're going to take a vote on that.
Okay, great. I think that's a good question. Basically, my understanding of it is that there is rules about how the subcommittee meets, when the subcommittee meets, making sure that a staff person can be there, that it's posted on the town website, that it has an official link, that it follows the open meeting law rules, etc. And that in turn means that if you develop a 3-member subcommittee, you can't really have discussion between those two individuals outside of a meeting, because that would equal a quorum. Athena, did I miss anything on that? Is that an okay answer?
Yes,
Great. Awesome.
all the open meeting law rules apply to subcommittees. So I think you covered it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
So with that, I will make the motion that we establish an Amherst Charter Review Committee outreach subcommittee that will deal with that will work with public outreach and engaging the public in multiple means, including but not limited to a public survey that goes out that I will share with them to work on.
Second
Athena?
that.
Can I
Great.
ask for a clarification?
Yes.
Is your intent for the subcommittee to do this work on its own or to make recommendations for the Charter Review Committee to act on?
To make recommendations for the Charter Review Committee to act on.
Got it. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
That's helpful.
Yep. And like, so basically, just to explain it a little more for folks, basically, the idea would be like using this form as an example. I'd send them the form. They would go in, make edits to the form, make changes, bring it out into a more full-fledged thing we can all support, and then they'd screen share it and say, is this something that this committee wants to approve? We recommend it. Andy? And then Meg.
I wonder if the charge could be a little more general.
Yeah.
You know, a subcommittee to develop a plan for public outreach for approval by the committee and to work with the consultants on particular strategies and instruments for doing so.
Yeah.
Or
I don't
maybe
see
in a slightly different order, but
Yeah.
I
I don't see a problem with that. We can't really have competing motions next to each other, if that makes any sense. So I don't necessarily see a problem with that. I think we'd need to vote on this motion, or I could make a friendly amendment if you wanted to like strike a few sections of it, and I'd be open to that.
Can I
Meg?
talk for that amendment, or do you want Meg to talk first?
Yeah, Meg, go ahead, and then I'll
Well,
come.
I strongly agree with Andy that I don't think we want a subcommittee whose purposes sounds like it's to work to figure out how to make a better survey. The survey
That's
would
not
be a
the
tool.
only sub.
Well,
I was
but
just
I
using it
just-
as an example.
I think we've talked about wanting a robust parallel track for getting input, meaningful input from the public, and whatever tools and mechanisms that can be would be most useful. We should develop one of which probably would be a survey, but the survey would follow the strategy. That's-
Great, Andy.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, basically, that we give the charge that they draft a plan for public outreach and in consultation with any consultants that we might hire, and then bring that plan back to the committee for approval. And that might, I don't know how to exactly say, but it would include a variety of data collection strategies.
Bernie.
I would withdraw the second, so that
Okay.
will give you the opportunity to make a new
Great.
motion that encompasses
Okay.
the
That
discussion.
encompasses what Andy and Meg were saying. Sure. Okay, that's great. Thank you, Bernie. So that would make it easy for me. So I'll just withdraw my motion. I'll make a new motion to adopt a Amherst Charter Review Committee public outreach subcommittee that will be tasked with working with our consultants and recommending to the Charter Review Committee means for public outreach, including but not limited to public forums, public surveys, and other methods of community engagement. Meg?
I have
Or
a
I need a
concern.
second. Actually, I need a second before you can discuss it.
I'll second.
Second, thank you, Bernie. Meg?
I have a concern about making working with the consultant the first task. If we're not even going to find out about funding until the end of January, we might not have someone until March. It just seems that we might want to say including working with the consultant rather than waiting until we have the consultant.
I think that's what I said. I think I said including the consultant.
I think that you said
Oh.
tasked with working with consultants in order to recommend. So I think
okay.
the next
Okay.
point is that the purpose of the subcommittee is to work together
with-
to recommend methods and means for public outreach, including working with consultants if and when they become
Right.
connected to the
Okay.
committee.
Yeah, I may have mixed the two of those up.
I
So
think it was just a.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you, Erica.
okay.
Exactly.
Sure. That's fine. I will agree.
I think we want to be careful that we want to communicate that we're energetically interested in hearing from the public.
Yeah, I would
And
agree
we're
that
not waiting for this and that to happen.
we can make
first.
I'd make a friendly amendment to say that the committee's job is including working with the consultant,
Right.
developing public forums, public outreach, surveys, etc. Andy?
I'm wondering if Erica could, as the minute taker, do you have
Do
language?
you have
that
anything good there? Yeah.
that you could read back to us that would give us something to sink our teeth into?
I am
Or Phil, or
I'm
before
typing as
all-
fast as I can.
if
Great.
all else fails,
Would
make
you mind
something up.
reading out what you have?
Okay,
See if that
after the last,
anyway encompasses
after this
anything.
last edit, what I have is that there's a public outreach, we're proposing a public outreach subcommittee.
Yeah.
That will work on a strategy and plan for public outreach, including but not limited to recommending forums, surveys, or other methods.
Right.
And will work with consultants if and when they are procured for the Charter Review Committee.
That's perfect. And then it's less cart before the horse, and I can send my survey to that committee. And that's a little bit more formalized process. That's great.
Good.
Okay,
Bernie, does that sound like what you seconded?
It does.
great. I
Exactly.
agree. That sounds good.
That's
Good
exactly
job,
what I
Erica.
heard.
That's great.
That's great. Athena,
Do you want to specify a number of members?
3 members, I think is appropriate. Is that seem okay, Bernie?
That's fine.
Great. I'm gonna move that we vote on this for the sake of time. I'll start with you, Erica.
Yes.
Meg,
Yes.
Raphael,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Bernie,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
and myself, I'm an I. Yes. Okay, so we have approved that subcommittee. Now we need to pick 3 people to staff it. And
How about
then
Dan and Marcus?
Yes, Marcus?
their job to adopt.
I'm interested.
Great.
Good.
Marcus is
No,
Erica.
that was Raphael. That was
Or,
Raphael.
excuse me,
Yeah, that
Raphael.
was me. I'm interested.
Raphael, go. And
Yeah.
Erica.
I am interested in being part of this.
Okay.
subcommittee.
And then we need a 3rd person. I don't actually see Marcus here right now.
I think he
Right.
left before we voted.
Okay, got it. So we need a 3rd person. Anybody else interested? If not, I'll do it.
I'm interested,
Okay.
but I'm so
Okay.
busy. Would you rather do it, Julian?
No, it's fine if you want to. It's perfectly fine. I guess I'll move that myself, Erica, and Raphael develop a staff our subcommittee. And that we appoint the 3 of us. Is there a second for that?
Meg, did you just take your name out or?
I didn't think I did, but that's fine.
Okay.
I thought I volunteered, but whatever.
Okay.
I can,
I thought
make
you said you were
comments.
too busy, so I wanted to take that, see if I could do it.
okay, good.
I mean,
I'll volunteer. I did volunteer because I'm very interested in this, but I can come to the meetings
I
Please.
think
comment, so,
if
yeah.
If
just-
Meg's gonna come to the meetings anyway, then Julian, you have an awful lot on your plate already. I'm wondering if she could be
Yeah,
on the committee, and then if you can show up when you need to, but
sure.
not
Mhm.
necessarily be.
That's fine. Yep. I was really just hoping to be on it so that I could guide some of the survey process. Because that's what I'm interested in. So that's fine.
My interest is in participation. That's my whole thing. So,
Okay.
but
Sure.
it's not rote.
Yeah, that's fine. Meg, do you wanna
Yep.
go? I'll withdraw my name.
Sure.
That's fine. You're sure you're not too busy? If you are, I'd rather do it than have the committee.
Well,
not.
let's say for now I'll do it and you and I'll chat. if I
Okay,
need to.
sure.
That's
Yeah,
actually the
I'll-
reason I'm on this. That's the reason I'm on this thing at all is because of this
Okay.
topic.
Okay.
So,
So we'll say I move to appoint Erica, Meg, and Raphael to the committee. Can I have a second for that?
Second.
Okay.
Second, thank you, Andy. And without discussion, I'm just gonna move to voting Erica.
Yes.
Me, I'm an I, Andy,
Aye.
Meg,
yes,
Raphael,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
Bernie.
Yes.
Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you, everybody.
do we need a convener like Raphael? Someone to convene or we're just all equal?
So until the subcommittee elects a chair, I'll send out an email to the three of you saying what's your preferred date and time, and we'll get a meeting on the books, and then kind of like the chair.
Thanks so
Great.
much,
Okay.
Athena. Great. Okay. Oh, great. Thanks for sending that, Bernie. I just got it. Let me see here. Agenda, we've gotten the Google form, dealt with the revision to the website. Can't happen now because of Dan. Isn't here. Final public piece, Meg. No problem. I'm gonna share my screen right now. And we are going to look to send this news article. And I'm just gonna first ask, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Mhm.
Great.
Most of it.
Would you like me to say a couple of sentences about what I?
Sure. I'm gonna just first start us out so we can sort of get moving with this, just noticing the time. But basically, this is the article that we're hoping to send to local newspapers. That includes the Daily Hampshire Gazette, Mass Live, the Amherst Bulletin, the Amherst Indy, the Amherst Current. Pretty much everywhere people get their news is the goal. So basically, it would be our goal to send this to them, and I've proposed a bunch of edits that Meg has made, I believe. And Meg, I'll turn it over to you. We'll read through it.
I had originally been aiming for the 750 word of the opinion pieces in the paper and decided much shorter would be better. I eliminated references to both the League and to Andy and Brian Harvey's excellent current commentary in the Current, and used much of Andy's language for the opening, which made it much tighter. And there are two links in there. One is still needed for the reference bank. I don't know quite what that is. And I signed, as Andy's letter version had done, signed all of our names. So it's about 250 words shorter.
Great, thank you, Meg. I'll just start my first comment on this. I do not know what the reference bank necessarily is or where it is and what the link to it is. And I see an extensive report by the League of Women Voters and then the charter review process that got posted to the Amherst Current. I don't really see a need to reference this. I mean, it's basically, we're just saying that these two groups have proposed some changes, etc. I wouldn't want a general member of the public reading this on their phone, getting breakfast, or before they head out the door for work, making the incorrect assumption that we in any way represent the League of Women Voters or the views of the Charter Commission, former Charter Commission chairs. So I would prefer.
Why don't we
just
eliminate that paragraph? Scratch that paragraph.
To the charter review recommendations where I've highlighted right here. So I'll make the motion, I'll make a motion that we approve sending this to all local newspapers with the paragraph, we have begun collecting a resource bank through on their charter review recommendations removed.
No, and then the next sentence as well, into the next page also.
Oh, okay, yep. Out till residents to take a look. Would you second that, Meg?
Yes.
Great. Erica, do you have that written down okay?
Nope, I missed that one.
You eliminate that paragraph that starts, we have begun, just delete the paragraph.
Yeah, I got the paragraph and the following sentence. Is there something else?
Just a motion. I made a motion and Meg seconded to approve this, and
Those were the only edits, correct?
But we need the link for contacting us down there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll still need the link. Yeah, obviously, but with removing that paragraph. Got that, Erica?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Andy, then Ken, then Bernie.
Yeah, that was a bit of creative writing that I put in there, and it was in some response to the examples that Meg had in her original draft, where she was talking about certain people are thinking that, or the league would, so it was a distillation of that to a certain extent. But I do think that we should have some sort of, as we're collecting resources, it would be good to have a place where people can look at other charter review committee reports, or anything that we're collecting. I guess I don't know exactly how we decide what would be public and what wouldn't, but it's almost like anybody who writes something into us, that should be available somewhere for people to see. But I don't know that we need to say that we're going to do that yet. It might be something that we, so I'm fine removing it. I just think that it would be a good thing to have at some point, to have a resource bank or a link to materials that we've collected, so people can see what we see.
Yeah. Ken?
I was gonna just address the link about you can contact us here. I work enough in the web that I know it's possible to have the town create, we can create our own Gmail address, but the town could create something like charterreview@amherst.gov. I don't know if we have those, if we can use those resources from the town. Otherwise, we can just create a Gmail address, and then we have to decide who are administrators, who's going to monitor that and do the aforementioned "thank you very much for your comment" or field questions.
Erica?
Thank you. Ken, I think those are great questions, and part of that to me is it's adjacent to the public outreach subcommittee. It's not exactly entirely in that lane, but it is partly in that lane. But my comment, I actually just had a question. I know there's a motion on the table. This is just related, because I know we're removing the part about the resource bank, but I've had a question that maybe Athena can help clarify. Are we allowed to have a separate website for our work that includes links and resources and sort of results or comments that isn't housed on the town website? That's just an informative question.
Athena, go ahead.
We've used Engage Amherst in the past. I don't know if that's still set up and working. I'd have to check with our community participation officer and the communications manager. That's something that we could find out from them. If I may jump in here on another topic that can, I think someone brought up for Andy about the email address and so forth. So our practice has not been to include emails sent to, and I'll talk about the council and its committees, to just automatically post them that are available to the public. And that's why I've created this comment form for the council, so that people can proactively say, yes, I wish my comments to be published on the town website. With that form, it's really easy to set up so that all the comments that are submitted are automatically distributed to all of your email addresses, so that any one of you could respond and say, thank you for your comment, such and such, or you could respond individually saying, I had a question about your comment, and have a conversation with them outside of a forum. So that makes it very easy. It also makes it very easy to manage those documents, because they become a public record. I can convert them into PDFs and post them onto the website very, very easily. I don't have to go in and redact email addresses and personal information that people include in their emails. And then the issue with using a Gmail is similar in terms of creating public records in a domain that doesn't belong to the.
Excellent. Thank you, Athena. Bernie.
Yeah. Oh, Athena, thank you for that. Mention that. I think if we're going to have the contact form on the town's website automatically send notices to our email, I'm going to set up a separate Gmail account so that I don't get. I have tough enough time. I have 2 email accounts now, and I have enough time sorting them out. If I get a ton of stuff coming in on my Gmail account, that will get mixed up with all the other stuff I'm involved in. That will be difficult. So I'll just very quickly create a new Google account for myself. I don't want it coming in on my Comcast account, because nothing there gets read anyway. The other, in terms of the letter, I want to change one word.
Okay.
That's, I'm gonna channel my picky mode here.
I'll see if
Fourth,
I'll
the
accept
fourth,
this
the
friendly
fourth
amendment.
paragraph down,
Yeah.
we are open to including more expansive recommendations.
Julian, your page is not displaying the
Oh,
letter.
what? Sorry.
Yeah. I would like to change recommendations to suggestions.
Well, that's a good
Because-
idea.
Because under the law, we can't make recommendations on major amendments. So let's just say we're gonna make suggestions. And that's what we're gonna do.
Great.
I would accept that as a friendly amendment. Okay, so let's vote on this. I'll start with.
I'm sorry, a question
Wait.
before.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Yep.
So what are we doing about the, you can contact us. Are we gonna, will Athena be able to insert the proper contact form linkage in there? Is that what we're voting on?
I believe so.
Think
Athena,
so.
is that correct?
Hey, could you,
To create that comment form yet. So I need the committee to ask me. I don't want to do something that the committee has not asked me to do yet.
Right.
So if the committee is asking me to set up that form, then I will do so, and I will ask which email addresses members would like that form to go to when it's set up, and I can give you the link to the form, and we can talk about when the comments will be published and so forth, but I haven't got asked to do that yet.
That I understand. I guess this is me formally asking if you could do that. That would be great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great.
Awesome.
Along with housebreaking the puppy.
Would have been great if you said no, but anyways, that'd be good comic timing.
Great. I'll start voting. Myself, I'm an I. Ken,
Yes.
Bernie,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Erica,
Yes.
Meg,
yes,
Raphael.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody. We've unanimously approved this article, and Athena will work to get that, get a letter, get a public piece that we can get feedback from, and Meg will send this out to the local news. So,
Wait.
yep.
did you just say Meg will send it out? No, I
Or-
misheard you.
Yeah, Meg, aren't you gonna send this to the?
Oh, I am,
I believe
okay.
so. Yeah,
okay, I didn't know that, sure.
sorry.
You,
Yeah,
I'm just gonna get, well, I'm gonna talk to you later about all those places, Mass Live
Okay.
and so on.
sure.
We don't have to repeat that.
That's okay. Okay,
Ask me,
so
and we can work with our communications manager to
Yes,
get that to the, okay.
excellent.
great.
Thank
I-
you. Perfect. Andy.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I just assume Meg can work with Athena to make, Athena will get the final version with the
Yeah.
contact form in it and so on, and then the
Right.
communications person can either give it to Meg or get it out there.
Well, she can
Perfect.
get it, yeah, she can get it out, but I'll be in touch with Athena and with her.
I have a question that's sort of off agenda, but I just got your email, Bernie, about the revised proposal. I'm looking at it. I don't see the amendments that were made in it. Could you?
I changed, all right,
You may have
I
sent the wrong one. That's okay.
may have sent the wrong one. Would that never happen?
Oh,
Um,
I've never done that.
Version control.
Okay, let me. Sigh. All right, let me double check that and
Okay.
because the only thing I changed is under C, I had established interest groups, including volunteer committees and town staff.
Great.
And then I separated out general public comments, put a hyphen there and said, develop on a parallel basis. It's the only thing I changed.
Excellent. That
Okay.
should be perfect. So
All right,
just
should
double
be,
check that.
should means ought to, not that it necessarily will. be. So,
So,
double check this and
Okay.
I'll try again.
so,
Meg.
so offline, maybe with Athena, we'll chat about whether this should come from you or me. I'm happy to organize it, but you're the chair. I just think it might be better to come from you, but we can talk offline about that,
Okay.
right?
Athena? All right, so schedule first outreach times and goals of session. I feel like that's an appropriate thing to be under the purview of the new committee we established. Do we agree? Okay.
Yep.
Excellent. Great. Now committee process and organization. That is we've discussed that. Open meeting law reminder. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. Athena, I believe, had something to say about this that she would like to say, and Erica emailed me about it. So I'd like to open the floor up for Athena to say that. I'm just going to give a quick reminder. Not all committee members know this because not all committee members were in person, but four folks were talking sort of after the meeting, after we officially adjourned, as a group of four. I don't think that's allowed for via open meeting law. So I would just ask for the folks who were doing that. I don't want to have it happen again, because that's how the rules of open meeting law work, and I don't want our committee to get in trouble. Athena?
Four is not a quorum.
Yeah,
Oh, 4 isn't a quorum?
I think it's up to 4 because it's not a quorum.
How many
Mhm.
people were? I think it was
9.
4 people, right? It was, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
People with a
okay.
quorum.
Then it was fine. Okay. Well, was it? No, there may have been 5 people discussing because there was
Oh, yeah.
there may have been, because there was Ken, Andy, and I'm not meaning to name call as in you're bad or anything. That's not what
Right.
I'm saying, but I'm trying
Oh,
to
yes,
count
me.
myself. There was Dan, there was Ken, there was Andy, there was Meg, and there was Marcus.
Yep.
And I had gotten up and was by the door, and at least from what I had observed, all 5 of you were in a discussion. So
Well, ironically, it was about open meeting law.
maybe okay, great. Maybe it was separate discussions. If it was 2 people and 2 people, maybe that's okay. But I think just a general reminder for the committee, be careful. That, I think, if a member of the public was there, that could have been reasonably interpreted as a violation. And I would ask for everyone to be careful and keep us out of trouble. Athena, you had something you were going to say about that was in email? I just wanted to open the floor for you to say that.
It's up to you folks if you want me to reiterate to members of the public what I put in an email to you about some of the comments I made at our recent meeting.
Okay, sure. I don't see a problem with that being said.
I will just read some of what I wrote to you in an
Great.
email. I hope to help committee members and members of the public achieve a better understanding of my role as your impartial staff liaison, to connect the committee with town resources, advise on municipal and legislative issues, and to provide technical and administrative support. I hope this will refocus the conversation on the important work you are doing in service to the town. I have no personal stake in the committee's decisions or the outcome of its recommendations. My work is not in advocating for my own or any other person or entity's goals, nor do I wish to prevent robust resident engagement in the work of town committees. The committee needs a staff member with a Zoom license to open a Zoom meeting and begin the recording. Begin a Zoom meeting and leave if I'm not available to stay. Staff liaisons attend the meetings of the committees they serve. If a conflict arises and I cannot start and record a meeting, I can ask another staff member to do so, but requesting this task of another staff person to support the committee in this way on a regular basis is not sustainable due to the limited resources of our staff time. Staff who attend evening meetings or work outside regular hours are allotted compensatory time, which means time away from their regular work during work hours. To meet at times I am available to support it, but I do not need to attend the entirety of all meetings. I will support in-person hybrid meetings and outreach events. I will attend hybrid meetings to provide IT support in the town room. I ask that requests of staff from the committee come through me as the committee's staff liaison. as other committees do with their staff liaisons. Members are residents and have a right to access staff, and I am not limiting this right. However, several committee members making requests of various staff members on behalf of the committee can create confusion and is not an efficient use of our staff resources. Open meeting law, but did not tell members you cannot speak to each other between meetings. Authority of the open meeting law and the body as a whole are responsible for abiding by the law. Web pages. Staff are able to modify pages to an extent. I offered support to post and organize information or documents the committee would find helpful on the web page and set up a comment form like the council's. Each town of its own web page is untenable. We need to maintain some level. Is unable to edit the town web pages I manage due to my technical knowledge or lack thereof, or due to insufficient IT support. Others' email addresses, and I provided them. I have not shared members' private email addresses publicly. I urge members to use email for housekeeping purposes, not to engage in dialogue outside a meeting, and to exercise caution when communicating via email or by other means outside a meeting so that your opinions are not shared at once or serially with a quorum of the committee. But again, it is up to members to ensure compliance with the law. I hope this will refocus the conversation on the important work you are doing in service to the town.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Athena. I appreciate that. I think it's great to hear that perspective, and also an important reminder for committee members about sort of how we make requests, how the process works, because we have to work on the charter, not arguing about the process, if that makes any sense. Erica?
Athena, thank you for reading that. And also, because the audio was a little fuzzy, just wanted to get your permission to include the text of what you wrote in the email, which is, I think, what you just read out, to include that in the minutes.
Comments were slightly different from what I sent in the email, just to, because some of it has been in the past. I can share that with you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. And I think it's just important that we as a committee consider that, and also be careful. We don't want to overtax our staff liaison, Athena, who is very busy in addition to her many other duties. All right. We're wrapping up early, folks. Congratulations.
Hey.
Yeah, some of your time back from last meeting. So basically, committee future agenda planning. I would have on future agenda planning that I'd like, and maybe this is actually a better thing for the outreach subcommittee to tackle, but I would like to discuss and maybe work with, through Athena, Samantha, who is the town social media director. So would I, just so that we as a committee could maybe get some of the stuff on social media and find new ways for outreach. So that might be a better agenda topic for the outreach subcommittee, but I thought it was something worth bringing up. Other agenda items, I'll take notes because I'm really open to include anything on the agendas and want to hear from you. And obviously at our next meeting, if Dan is present, we will be discussing the website structure from the 12th. Go ahead, Andy.
I'm just wondering if there's something from, the approved proposal from Bernie, if that sets us up for some agenda items for next time. There was Bernie was going to
Yeah,
a list of
it
things to
does.
discuss, or
There's basically two reports, two lists, contact lists of one of appointed and elected officials, and the other of staff, which I took it upon myself to work with and dragged Athena in to compile those and get those to the committee, and we'll make some assignments as to who talks to who.
Excellent.
Is there any questions that we want to be thinking about for those people, or is that separate?
No, I mean, we can certainly talk about that on the 16th.
I mean, it was listed as being general questions. You listed two.
A general discussion, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't, I wasn't I have a few samples that I'll send around that are like open-ended. I think open-ended that would be used rather than saying, in Article 2, Section B, do you think that? We'd like to avoid that this first time out. But we can talk about that more. We can talk about that more before we actually launch it.
Yeah.
So the agenda would be to consider the lists of, whatever A and B in that proposal, and, some general questions to, and maybe talk about how we're going to go about interviewing them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great. So I have the website structure, interview, discussion, to talk about how we're going to go about interviewing people and setting that up, as well as what me and Athena will bring back as a work plan for the Collins Center. Erica.
Sorry, what was that last thing you said?
What me and Athena are going to draft up as a work plan for the Collins Center.
Okay, my comment about the agenda is that we had an agenda item tonight about the amending and adopting the committee timeline, which we didn't get to, which is actually, I just want to propose that that's fine. That since we created a public outreach subcommittee, which I think is a good bit of business, that I'm going to very optimistically say that maybe the public outreach subcommittee might actually be able to briefly meet and review or put together a sketch of a timeline to then bring to the January 16th meeting. If it's not possible, it's not possible, but I just want to revisit that on January 16th with new information.
I think that would be excellent. That would be very helpful. And the other thing that I'm thinking about is, just so folks know, I guess this sort of moves into topics not anticipated, which is the town manager has gotten back to our supplemental budget request. And basically, I'll just read what he said here, and I'm just telling you as chair that I'm gonna sort of handle the further communication and the next steps here, so that this can go forward to the council, but that it's happening, is basically the point. So he said, "Thank you for this request. Please provide more detail as in how you think the funds will be utilized, specifically by the categories you listed." And then he said that, "I assume you intended this to be part of the budget process for the coming fiscal year, which is beginning July 1, 2025. So I basically said that that's incorrect, that we are specifically asking, this is a supplemental budget request, and that for whatever reason wasn't clear. And then I explained that the committee wanted me to be as broad as possible, but it looks like that isn't going to be the case. Basically, he specifically needs a detailed budget. So I will be working as chair with Melissa and Athena, and Melissa's the town finance director, for those who don't know, about how we're going to come up with a detailed budget and assist in putting that together. So I just wanted to make the committee aware of that. I wasn't able to put it on the agenda. Athena.
You'll be working with Athena and
Melissa, who's the town finance director, and Paul Bockelman, who's the town manager. Athena?
The town manager wanted to remind the committee of is that for supplemental budget requests, because we're in the current fiscal year, FY25, those funds would need to be expended during this fiscal year, which is before June 30th. So your request,
thank you.
Any funds that are not expended by June 30th there's a different process to carry over to the next fiscal year. So your request might be divided. You could think about that.
Okay, got it. We'll discuss this with Melissa and you, Athena, about the specifics of this. I just wanted to make the committee aware that this is happening and in the process. So that, Andy, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have some categories. If you have to get specific, then I think you have a number that that the Collins Center gave you, and then the other stuff is outreach costs and printing and things like that. And I would just try to stay as general as I'll let you.
Okay. Sure. That's good. I don't know exactly. I think we're going to be asked for specifics, but yes, so basically, I believe that pretty much wraps it up. I'm hearing for future agenda planning that we'll want the website discussion. We'll want the outreach subcommittee to come back to us with a proposal for a timeline, and we'll want to discuss what we're going to discuss, reaching out to groups and what the topics of discussion are there, and Bernie, that I'm going to bring back after meeting with Athena a proposal for us to bring to the Collins Center of their workload. And yeah, that's about it. And so Athena knows I'm on school break, so I'm really free to meet whenever. And
I would just ask, excuse me,
Yeah.
Julian, I would just ask if anybody has any ideas or recommendations about having conversations with the elected officials and the like, just please feel free to contact me.
great, thank you, Bernie. Meg, you're muted. I don't know, still not hearing you.
I'll just, here,
There, that's better.
I took, my earbuds must have died. Remind me how we're going to convene the public outreach committee, whatever it's made up.
Athena will send you an email.
Okay, great. Thank
and
you.
That will help you guys, and then once a chair is elected for that
Great.
subcommittee, it will go from there, and the
Thank you.
chair will handle that. When is our next meeting? I completely forgot. Could anyone remind me?
It's January.
January 16th is.
Great, thank you. Perfect.
Are we going to have any hybrid meetings, or are they all Zoom?
We will have some more hybrid meetings. I don't think we'll have that as a hybrid meeting, but I will work with Athena and Erica to call additional hybrid meetings as I see fit.
Great.
Okay, great, excellent. So, not seeing anything else on our agenda, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Excellent, thank you, Andy. Looks like we're 13 minutes early. Meg?
Yes.
Myself, I'm an I. Bernie?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Raphael?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Erica?
Yes.
Excellent. All right, have a great night, everybody. Use those additional 13 minutes of your night wisely.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy New
Yes.
Year.
Oh, yes.
Happy
Happy
holidays.
holidays.
Bye.
Solstice.